In the serene countryside of Windermere, nestled amidst the rolling hills and tranquil waters, stood Willow Manor, a grand Victorian house steeped in history and mystery. Its elegant facade, adorned with intricate carvings and ornate windows, seemed to gaze out over the landscape with an air of quiet authority. The sprawling grounds surrounding the manor were a patchwork of lush gardens, ancient trees, and winding pathways that seemed to lead to secrets untold. But beneath its picturesque exterior lurked a darkness that whispered of forgotten tragedies and restless spirits, a darkness that would soon ensnare one unsuspecting soul in its grasp. Sarah had always been drawn to the allure of old houses, their weathered facades and whispered secrets speaking to a longing buried deep within her soul. From a young age, she had harbored a fascination with the past, a desire to uncover the hidden stories and mysteries that lay dormant in the walls of abandoned buildings. So when she stumbled upon Willow Manor, with its imposing presence and enigmatic history, she felt an irresistible pull, a sense of destiny entwined with the house's tangled past. Little did she know that her decision to purchase the grand residence would thrust her into a world of darkness and despair, where the line between reality and nightmare blurred beyond recognition. Eager to escape the chaos of city life and embark on a new adventure, Sarah wasted no time in purchasing the majestic estate, unaware of the malevolent forces that lay dormant within its walls. At first, Willow Manor seemed like a dream come true, a sanctuary of peace and solitude where she could finally find solace amidst the chaos of her own mind. The house welcomed her with open arms, its spacious rooms and elegant furnishings providing a sense of comfort and security that she had long been missing. Yet, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Sarah began to notice subtle signs that all was not as it seemed. Whispers drifted through the empty hallways, barely audible yet unmistakably eerie, as though the very walls of Willow Manor were alive with a presence that defied explanation. Shadows danced in the corners of her vision, flickering and shifting with a mind of their own, while the air grew heavy with a palpable sense of unease. Objects moved of their own accord, defying the laws of physics with their inexplicable motions, and strange sounds echoed through the house in the dead of night, chilling Sarah to the bone. Despite her rational mind's attempts to dismiss these occurrences as mere coincidences or figments of her imagination, she could not shake the feeling that something sinister lurked just beyond her perception. Determined to uncover the truth behind Willow Manor's haunting, Sarah embarked on a journey into the heart of darkness, a journey that would test her courage and sanity to their very limits. Armed with nothing but her wits and an insatiable thirst for answers, she delved into the house's murky past, unearthing secrets that had long been buried beneath layers of deceit and betrayal. The more she learned, the more she realized that Willow Manor was not just a house, but a living, breathing entity, a repository of memories and emotions that stretched back centuries. Each room held its own secrets, each wall whispered tales of love and loss, of joy and sorrow. And at the center of it all was a darkness so profound, it threatened to consume everything in its path. Through nights filled with terror and days steeped in dread, Sarah confronted the restless spirits that prowled the halls of Willow Manor, their anguished cries echoing through the empty rooms like the mournful wails of lost souls. Yet, with each attempt to banish the malevolent forces that held her captive, she only seemed to provoke greater fury, until she found herself teetering on the brink of madness, trapped within the confines of her own haunted mind. But Sarah refused to surrender to despair. With unwavering determination, she pressed on, unraveling the threads of the past until she uncovered the dark truth that lay at the heart of Willow Manor's curse. Long ago, a tragedy had befallen the house, a betrayal so profound, it had left an indelible mark on the very fabric of reality. And now, the spirits of the past sought vengeance, their tormented souls bound to the earth until justice was served. In a final, desperate bid to break the cycle of suffering, Sarah confronted the source of the curse, a vengeful spirit consumed by hatred and despair. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with sorrow, she reached out to the lost soul, offering forgiveness where there had been only bitterness and anger. And in that moment of grace, the darkness that had shrouded Willow Manor for so long began to dissipate, like the morning mist chased away by the rising sun. The restless spirits found peace at last, their anguished cries replaced by a haunting silence that echoed through the empty halls. In the end, Sarah's journey into the heart of darkness served as a sobering reminder of the fragility of the human spirit and the enduring power of fear. For in the shadows of Willow Manor, she discovered that some secrets are better left buried, lest they consume us whole. As the echoes of her ordeal faded into the ether, Sarah emerged from the depths of despair, forever changed by her terrifying encounter with the unknown. And though Willow Manor may have claimed her innocence, it could never extinguish the flame of her resilience, a flame that would guide her through the darkest of nights and into the light of a new dawn. Title: Unveiling the Haunting. Real-life accounts of scary new house horror stories. Introduction. Moving into a new house can be an exhilarating experience, symbolizing fresh beginnings and new adventures. However, beneath the excitement lies a realm where the mundane intersects with the eerie, where the ordinary transforms into the unsettling. In this essay, we delve into the chilling narratives of individuals who found themselves entangled in hair-raising encounters within their new abodes. These are not tales concocted from the realm of fiction, but rather spine-tingling accounts rooted in reality, each recounting a different facet of the uncanny. Brace yourself as we navigate through the corridors of fear and unveil the haunting within these homes. The unsettling prelude. It begins innocently enough. An enthusiastic couple, Mark and Sarah, finally securing the keys to their dream home. Nestled in a quaint neighborhood, the house exuded an air of charm, its picturesque exterior promising a haven of tranquility. Yet, as they stepped over the threshold, an inexplicable chill descended upon them, foreshadowing the unsettling events that lay ahead. The house, though beautiful, seemed to possess an undercurrent of unease, as if it held secrets just beyond the reach of understanding. The creak of the door as they entered sent shivers down their spines, and they exchanged uneasy glances, wondering if their new beginning might be more tumultuous than anticipated. Encounter 1. The Whispering Walls. The first signs of unease manifested subtly, as Sarah noticed faint whispers echoing through the corridors late at night. Initially dismissed as figments of an overactive imagination, the whispers grew in intensity, morphing into discernible voices that seemed to emanate from within the very walls of their home. Mark, skeptical at first, soon found himself unable to ignore the spectral murmurs that permeated the silence of the night. They would often find themselves awake, straining to decipher the words that seemed to dance just beyond the edges of comprehension. The whispers seemed to have a life of their own, weaving in and out of their dreams, and stirring a sense of dread that lingered long after the sun had risen. Encounter 2. The Haunting Reflection. As the days turned into weeks, a peculiar phenomenon began to plague the couple, a reflection that seemed to distort reality itself. Sarah would catch glimpses of fleeting shadows in the mirrors, their forms twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes before vanishing into thin air. Fearful of what lurked beyond the reflective surface, they resorted to covering the mirrors, hoping to shield themselves from the sinister forces at play. But even with the mirrors shrouded, the feeling of being watched persisted, a constant reminder of the unseen eyes that lingered just out of sight. The mirrors, once symbols of vanity and beauty, now served as portals to a realm of darkness and uncertainty, reflecting back a twisted version of reality that left them questioning their own sanity. Encounter 3. The Phantom Presence. With each passing night, the atmosphere within the house grew increasingly oppressive, as if weighed down by an unseen presence. Objects would inexplicably shift from their rightful place, doors would slam shut of their own accord, and a pervasive sense of dread lingered in the air. Mark and Sarah found themselves consumed by paranoia, their nerves fraying with each unexplained occurrence. They would often find themselves jumping at the slightest sound, their hearts racing with the anticipation of what horrors the night would bring. Every corner seemed to harbor a lurking shadow, every whisper of the wind a potential harbinger of doom, and they found themselves unable to escape the suffocating grip of fear that seemed to tighten with each passing day. Encounter 4. The Sinister Revelation. As the disturbances escalated, Mark embarked on a quest to uncover the dark history of their new home. Delving into the annals of local lore, he stumbled upon a chilling revelation. A century-old tragedy shrouded in mystery. It was said that the house had once been the site of unspeakable horrors, its walls bearing witness to a past stained with bloodshed and despair. The more Mark unearthed, the more he realized that their seemingly idyllic home held secrets far darker than they could have ever imagined. Each revelation sent chills down his spine, confirming their worst fears and cementing their resolve to confront the malevolent forces that sought to torment them. Climax. Faced with the terrifying truth of their home's history, Mark and Sarah realized that they were dealing with forces beyond their comprehension. Determined to confront the malevolent entity that had taken residence within their sanctuary, they gathered their courage and prepared to confront the darkness head-on. With each passing moment, the tension within the house reached a fever pitch, as if the very walls themselves pulsed with a sinister energy. They armed themselves with whatever makeshift weapons they could find, steeling themselves for the confrontation that awaited them in the depths of their haunted abode. Their hands shook with adrenaline as they prepared to face the unknown, their resolve hardened by the knowledge that they were not alone in their struggle. As they ventured deeper into the heart of their home, the air grew thick with anticipation, every shadow seeming to pulse with a life of its own. Their footsteps echoed through the corridors, each sound magnified tenfold by the oppressive silence that surrounded them. And then, suddenly, they found themselves face to face with the source of their torment. A spectral figure, its form twisted and contorted by centuries of anguish. With a primal scream, they launched themselves at the entity, their resolve unyielding in the face of unimaginable horror. The battle that ensued was a blur of motion and sound, a desperate struggle against a foe that defied comprehension. Denouement. In the end, Mark and Sarah emerged from the ordeal battered but unbowed, their spirits tempered by the crucible of fear they had endured. Though the outcome remains shrouded in uncertainty, their story serves as a stark reminder of the haunting truth that lurks within the walls of even the most seemingly idyllic abodes. As they stood together, surveying the now quiet expanse of their home, they knew that they had reclaimed their sanctuary from the clutches of darkness. And though the scars of their ordeal may never fully fade, they would carry with them the lessons learned from their brush with the unknown. As we reflect on these chilling accounts, let us heed the cautionary tale they impart. A sobering reminder that the line between the mundane and the macabre is often thinner than we dare to imagine. Whether a skeptic or a believer, one cannot deny the lingering unease that accompanies the thought of what might lie hidden within the confines of our own homes. So the next time you find yourself stepping over the threshold of a new house, remember to tread carefully, for you never know what horrors may lie in wait within its walls. The wind howled relentlessly through the ancient trees, their gnarled branches scraping against the moonlit sky, creating eerie silhouettes against the night. It was a cacophony of nature's fury, a symphony of haunting whispers that seemed to echo the secrets of the forest itself. Amidst this primal chorus stood the old house, a solitary sentinel at the edge of the woods. Its weathered facade bore the scars of time, each crack and crevice a testament to the passage of years. Windows, long boarded up, appeared like empty sockets, casting a ghostly pallor over the landscape. The sagging roof, burdened under the weight of decades of neglect, seemed to sag like a heavy burden on the weary shoulders of the house. The tales surrounding the house were as numerous as the leaves that rustled in the wind. The locals spoke of curses and hauntings, warning travelers to steer clear of its shadowed halls. They whispered of lost souls and vanished spirits, of tormented screams that pierced the silence of the night. But for me, a writer in search of inspiration, these stories were not deterrents. They were invitations. I craved the darkness, yearned to unravel the mysteries that lay hidden within the walls of the old house. And so, with a mixture of trepidation and excitement, I embarked on my journey into the unknown. The front door groaned in protest as I pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit hallway cloaked in shadows. The air was thick with dust, and the musty scent of decay hung heavy, assaulting my senses as I stepped inside. Every footfall echoed off the walls, amplifying the eerie silence that enveloped the house. The floor beneath me felt uneven, and I stumbled forward, my pulse quickening with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. It was as if the very walls of the house were alive, pulsating with a malevolent energy that sent shivers down my spine. The first room I entered was the living room, frozen in time like a relic from another era. Furniture draped in white sheets stood like silent sentinels, guarding secrets long forgotten. The fireplace, its once roaring flames reduced to cold ashes, stood as a sullen reminder of warmth long extinguished. As I surveyed the room, I could almost hear the crackling of the fire, the laughter of children echoing off the walls. But beneath the surface, there was a palpable sense of sadness, of loss, that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if the very essence of the house clung to the air, whispering of past tragedies that had unfolded within its walls. Ascending the creaking staircase, each step a symphony of protest, I ventured into the upper realms of the house. The bedrooms awaited, their stillness almost suffocating in its intensity. Beds, neatly made as if awaiting the return of their long-gone occupants, stood in silent vigil. In one room, a child's drawing adorned the wall, a crude depiction of a stick-figure family, their faces devoid of features, their eyes staring out at me with a haunting emptiness. I tore my gaze away, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. It was as if the very walls of the house held memories of the lives that once dwelled within, their presence lingering like echoes in the night. The attic loomed ahead, a foreboding presence at the top of the stairs. As I ascended, the air grew colder, sending tendrils of icy fingers creeping up my spine. The room itself was a testament to neglect, filled with forgotten treasures of a bygone era. Trunks lay open, their contents spilling forth like memories long suppressed. Clothes, yellowed with age, hung like ghosts in the dim light, while toys of a forgotten childhood lay scattered amidst the dust and debris. But it was not the objects that sent a chill racing down my spine. It was the unmistakable presence, a heaviness that permeated the very air, suffocating and oppressive. It was as if the very essence of the house had taken form, looming over me like a spectre from the past. And then I heard it, the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing through the stillness of the house. My heart leaped into my throat as I froze, every nerve tingling with primal fear. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they seemed to resonate within the very marrow of my bones. With a surge of panic, I turned and fled, stumbling down the stairs in a frenzied bid for escape. Through the hallway I raced, my breaths ragged and labored, until I burst through the front door and into the cool night air. As I stood outside, gasping for breath, I dared not look back at the house looming ominously in the darkness. I knew I was not alone, knew that something sinister lurked within its walls, waiting patiently for its next victim. And as I drove away, the image of the house burned into my mind like a brand, its secrets haunting me with a relentless persistence that refused to be ignored. The house on the hill had claimed another soul, and its darkness would continue to linger, a malevolent force waiting to ensnare the unwary. The wind howled relentlessly through the ancient trees, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers against the backdrop of the moonlit sky, casting long, eerie shadows upon the landscape below. Amidst this haunting scene stood the foreboding structure known as the widow's house, a decrepit relic at the edge of the forest, steeped in legends and whispered tales of horror. Its once grand facade now lay in ruins, with boarded-up windows and a sagging roof that seemed to groan under the weight of time. The locals spoke of the house in hushed tones, their voices tinged with fear and superstition. They called it the widow's house, a name that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to venture near. As a writer with a penchant for the macabre and the unexplained, I found myself inexorably drawn to the mysteries that surrounded the widow's house. It was a beacon in the darkness, beckoning me to uncover its secrets and capture its essence on paper. With each whispered tale and chilling rumor, my curiosity grew, until I could resist its pull no longer. I knew that within those dilapidated walls lay a story waiting to be told, a story of love and loss, of darkness and despair. Despite the warnings and apprehension of the local populace, I resolved to explore the widow's house, determined to unravel its enigmatic past. Accompanied by a reluctant real estate agent, we stood before the wrought iron gate, the air heavy with anticipation and trepidation. The agent hesitated, her gaze darting nervously towards the encroaching forest, as if sensing the malevolent presence that lurked within its depths. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through my veins, I urged her to proceed. The gate groaned open, revealing an overgrown path that led towards the decaying mansion beyond. Tall grass brushed against my legs as we made our way forward, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Yet, despite the ominous atmosphere, I pressed on, driven by an insatiable curiosity that refused to be quelled. Stepping across the threshold of the widow's house, I was immediately enveloped in a shroud of dust and decay. The floorboards groaned underfoot as I ventured further into the dimly lit interior, my senses heightened by the oppressive silence that surrounded me. Peeling wallpaper adorned the walls, revealing faded floral patterns that spoke of a bygone era, while cobwebs hung from the ceiling like macabre tapestries. In the parlor, a grand piano stood sentinel, its once ivory keys now yellowed and cracked, bearing the scars of neglect and disuse. A white sheet draped over its form, as if mourning the lost melodies that had once filled the room with music. As I lifted the fabric, a cloud of dust erupted into the air, dancing in the dim light like ethereal specters. But it was not just the physical decay that unnerved me. There was an intangible sense of foreboding that permeated the air, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the very essence of the house itself was alive, its dark history seeping into every crevice and corner. In the kitchen, I stumbled upon a rusted meat cleaver, its blade stained with something dark and ominous. The mere sight of its center chilled down my spine, as if the very essence of evil lingered within its tarnished metal. I could feel the weight of the past bearing down upon me, as if the echoes of long-forgotten tragedies reverberated through the room. As I ascended the creaking staircase to the upper floor, a sense of dread washed over me like a tidal wave, threatening to engulf me in its suffocating embrace. The hallway stretched endlessly before me, its floorboards warped and splintered, as if bearing the weight of unspeakable sorrow and suffering. Behind the closed doors, I could hear faint whispers, a child's laughter, a woman's weeping, echoing through the darkness, like ghosts crying out for release. Summoning all my courage, I pushed open one of the doors, and what I found within brought me to the brink of madness. The room was small and suffused with a sickly pallor, its walls adorned with faded floral wallpaper that seemed to mock the tragedy that had unfolded within its confines. A narrow bed stood against one wall, its sheets yellowed and stained with the passage of time. On the dresser, a cracked mirror reflected my horrified visage, distorted and grotesque. But it was the closet that drew my gaze like a moth to a flame. The door was ajar, revealing darkness within that seemed to swallow the feeble light. As I approached, a foul stench assailed my senses, causing bile to rise in my throat. With trembling hands, I pushed open the door, and what I beheld within was a sight that would haunt me for the rest of my days. Rows of dresses hung from hooks, their fabric rotting and decayed. In the corner, a child's shoe lay discarded, its leather cracked and brittle with age. The closet was a tomb, a grim reminder of the horrors that had unfolded within the widow's house. It was as if the very walls themselves bore witness to the unspeakable tragedies that had occurred within their confines, their silent screams echoing through the empty halls. Retreating from the room, my mind reeling with horror and disbelief, I made my way back to the parlor, where the real estate agent awaited me, her face pale and drawn with fear. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I nodded, my throat constricted with emotion. "I found more than I bargained for," I replied hoarsely. "I found a story of love and loss, of darkness and despair. As I left the widow's house behind, I knew that I would never be the same. The horrors I had witnessed within its walls would haunt my dreams for eternity, leaving me forever changed. But as a writer, it was my duty to bear witness to the darkness that lurked within the human soul, to shine a light on the shadows that threatened to consume us all. And so I returned to my typewriter, the keys clacking in the silence of the night, as I sought to capture the essence of the widow's house on paper. It would not be an easy task, for the truth was more terrifying than any fiction I could ever imagine. But it was a story that needed to be told, a testament to the darkness that dwells within us all, waiting to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting world.